How you doing? My name is Lou Conte. I'm the head football coach here at Westfield State University. Um, just wanted to talk today a little bit about one of the base pieces of our offense. Every option style carries some type of full flow perimeter play. Um, Ours is toss. Okay, it could be a jet sweep, kind of similar in what they're getting done, but and you can look back 20 years and watch any option film and you'll see teams running toss, hopefully effectively. The intent is to try to give you some of the little things that really help get it off the ground, some little coaching points for each position, how to handle some of those funky looks and adjustments, and how we do things to run really a base play call effectively. The base play call, it's good to have when you don't need your quarterback thinking a whole lot. Kid just had a long run. Uh, you know, you're not asking them to look for checks. You're not asking them to look for too many things in the defense. It's just operating, basically a toss to a back, carrying out your fake with little effort. So it's really it's an off play for your quarterback, although there is still information to be gained. But like I said, it's not really a thinker. It's kind of like dive. There's information on every play that you do ask those quarterbacks to look for, but one of the less taxing and more reliable type plays. The other thing is you're really kind of putting the pressure on the perimeter. You're not concerned totally with what everything is going on up front. You're not asking your V-back to find gaps, to not look for, the front to see which gap we're really trying to find here. It's really just getting an athlete out on the perimeter in space, a couple of one-on-one blocks on the perimeter, and just letting your dudes be your dudes. Typically, you're going to find it defended not a whole lot of different ways. There's going to be one hard support player that you got to figure out, and then we'll talk about ways to play action that defender or just counter whatever it is that they're doing to try and stop your toss package. So I always try to install to three different fronts when I'm talking about toss or really any play in general. So we're going to line up out of our balanced traditional spread formation. All right. We do stack these A-backs, try to stack them directly behind each tackle, about a yard off the heels of those tackles. All right. Mirrored look, not tipping which way the play is going by alignment as best we possibly can. All right. And so what I'll do is we'll draw this up to a 4-3 first. All right. So we got a 4-down look. There's different ways and variations that teams will get into this 4-3, but we'll just go the all-American traditional 4-3 box. All right. 4 cross. And the key to the play, again, is we're just trying to find a way to get the ball to one of our better athletes in space. We'll run everything to the right for purposes of this presentation, but just trying to let this athlete be better than whatever athletes show over there. There's several things we can do with the offensive line here. All right. A lot of teams, and I think the easiest way is to just, rip and run to the next gap adjacent to you. All right. So everyone's responsible for capturing the edge level 1. All right. That's the responsibility of the offensive line. But I said I want to talk about a few of the change ups, things that we'll do here to try and make sure we're getting this thing off the ground. One of the things that we'll do, and it's week to week, it's just a little wrinkle that we have, or you can build it into your base rules, is, if you have a really good stand-up 5 technique that can see this full flow play starting, they have an idea that it's going to be toss. All right, you're just a little bit nervous about this cat right here. There are ways to try and influence this defensive end. And so one of the things that we have built in the past is guard covered or uncovered for the tackle. All right. If the guard is covered, all right, we know we're going to get a 5 technique here. And typically these 5 techniques are the readers. They're the dive players. All right. And so what we want to do is take advantage of that technique of being a rear. All right, so guard is covered. What we ask the tackle to do is now down, all right, or veer in, depending on how comfortable you are with that 3 technique. All right, we could cut it to the center, all right, and veer the tackle, or we could down it with the tackle. I'm not overly concerned with that 3 technique. I think the ball should leverage that 3 technique player. I think the center should get enough of him to not have to use the tackle on him. I would rather get the tackle up to the second level. But your choice. Guard covered, tackle veer in. All right, now our guard is going to try to, basically it turns into a G scheme, all right, where we're going to sink and try and wrap and log that 5 technique that is hopefully been squeezed or influenced down into the B gap to ride that tackle's hip, treating it, almost making it look like veer. You know, that tackle's going to veer in and try to get up to the mic. And that 5 technique's going to squeeze. The guard will wrap for the outside leg or shoulder of that 5 technique. All right, so that is one adjustment that we have with the guard covered stand-up 5 technique to help us really make sure that we're secured on level 1. But like I said, there are ways, you know, there are tackles out there that have no problem reaching these 5 techniques. It just depends on what you're seeing that week. It's coach's choice, dealer's choice, we'll call it. All right. One other big wrinkle that I want to add is if we do, and we've seen this, obviously we're talking about it for a reason. Sometimes we get these hyper athletic defensive linemen. All right. True rears. Okay. They're reacting to whatever we're doing. So as soon as they see us open, rip and run, these hyper athletic guys can get out onto the perimeter. Again, seen it happen. It's real. It may not happen to you on certain weeks and you don't have to worry about it. But we did create a tag. And I think a lot of people are doing this now as I watch more and more film. Basically, we're going to tag it and we're going to bring the offensive line in the complete opposite direction of the toss. All right. And with that, we're kind of hoping to get some of the eyes of the linebackers mixed up as well. You don't get as much of the secondary, but you might. And we're still running toss to the right. Whatever tag it is that you decide on, all right, we're going to send the offensive line on a true rip and run in the complete opposite direction of the play. Right? And the intent, obviously, is to take advantage of the reading technique and pull the defensive line in the opposite direction of the toss. All right. It was effective enough for us to lean on that a good bit. It was some years back when we were really heavy in this, but it was very effective, certainly against odd fronts that do have the tendency to play that read style. Whatever you want to tag it, but it just sends full flow offensive line play in the opposite direction. And then hopefully, you know, hope isn't a strategy, but we can get some pull from the back or at least some hesitation. All right. So I'll leave that drawn up as is. We have 2 or 3 different ways there of how we're going to take care of the first level, specifically to this 4th free look. Move on to the back. All right, the B back or your fullback. All right, and naturally, what we're going to do in this toss is we've got to steer clear of the pitch. We got to steer clear of the ball in the air. All right, and so we're going to send him backside. All right, away from the play. This does twofold. It gets you away from the ball in the air. It gets you away from any type of fumble. You know, batting a pitch down unintentionally. All right, but it also will get at least the mic to hesitate for a second. Usually those mics are keyed in through the B-back, all right, and potentially the stack backers as well. So we'll send this B-back opposite. What we will do with the B-back is, since it is level 1 and it is within the tackle box, all right, we will ask him to cut, all right, and here's what we talk about. So let's say we wouldn't do this with the tag to send the offensive line opposite, but if the offensive line is ripping and running in the direction of the play call, all right, we are basically vacating this tackle box. All right, we are hard rip and run through our gap, down and inside, and we're going to cut loose this 5 technique. All right, this 5 technique is not going to be able to make a play on a full flow toss play going in the opposite direction. But what we can take advantage of is the game within the game. All right, and then we talked to the B-backs and fullbacks about this, is anytime we run veer at these guys, these 5 techniques are coached all week long to take your hip, all right, to make sure that the fullback doesn't get the ball. Got to stop the dive, got to stop the B-back. Can't let this guy get through level 1. And you're essentially getting teed off on while you're sitting in a mesh wondering if you're going to get the ball or not. And these 5 techniques are screaming down and inside through the B gap, all right, and drilling you in the hip, shoulder, forearm, whatever, all right? So this is your revenge shot, all right? We'll use this language. None of this is outside of the rules of the game, all right? And it's not intended to hurt. It is simply a mindset of, he's not intended to hurt you either, but he's got a responsibility to do that. 5 technique is there to take you out of the game as far as yards are concerned, all right? Well, in this situation, you've got a 5 technique probably going to be squeezing the hip of the tackle, all right, and chasing down from the backside, in which case you're going to replace the tackle's feet, all right, first threat off the tackle's hip, all right, and you're going to cut the inside leg, okay? If you stood up out of your stance and went backside and did nothing, all right, the play is still probably going to be as effective. It's definitely going to be as effective as it would have been whether you cut this 5 technique or not. But what I am saying in my B-back meetings is exactly what I just said. You have a chance to get a revenge shot, all right? You have a chance to take a little bit out on the guy that's been teeing off on you all game, all right? We're going to level the playing field here a little bit, all right? So you want to get out of your stance and you want to walk to the backside C-gap. That tells me a lot about you, all right? You're okay with getting teed off on all game. You're afraid of that guy, okay? He owns you, all right? He's in your head. You're not a very aggressive B-back. All right? That's the message that you're sending. The guys that come out of their stance as if they have the ball, they're sprinting through the outside leg of the tackle, and they're cutting the first threat. Those are the guys that I want playing for me. Because if they can do that without having the ball, imagine what they're going to do when they have the ball in their hands. So this is a chance for you to get out of your stance and get to the inside leg of the defensive end that's been hitting you all game. All right? That's just one of the key things that I look for on film. After watching, after we played the game on Saturday and I'm queued it up on Sunday morning, all right, what did our B-backs do on toss? All right, it says a lot about them and the mentality of what we're operating with. All right, so that's very important. I get off my soapbox about that. So, all right, backside wide receiver is backside cutoff. All right, try to run through the second level and pick off a backside safety. Rare, all right, but can be done. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to let the corner get across our face and get involved in the play if it does break to be a long run. All right.